Hey guys, welcome to the Naked Truth. This is Casey, and I have my special guest today, Nicole Watson. Hi, Nicole.
Hello.
Good. Nicole, kind of give us a little background about yourself because I know we have information in regards to your book, I Speak Life 30-Day Journal from Suicidal Ideation. I'm sorry, I pronounced that word incorrectly, but suicidal ideation to victorious living. Give us a little bit about yourself.
So, my name is Nicole Watson. I'm also known as the Life Protector. I'm a suicide prevention strategist. I'm also an anti bullying advocate. I empower influencers and people with communities to recognize suicidal ideation and to learn the tips and strategies to keep their community safe. If suicidal ideation presents itself, I am an author, I am a speaker, I have the pleasure of being the creator of the Ultimate Suicide Prevention Guide, which is a comprehensive strategy to recognize and prevent suicide. And I also, like you said, have my devotional. I speak life. I teach courses about suicide prevention, and I have prevented
Awesome.
hundreds of suicides to date.
That is an awesome. I mean, woo, that's a lot. And how old are you?
I'm 35. I'll be 36 next month.
That is beautiful. I'm gonna tell you that right now. For you to know your purpose, a lot of people still seeking their purpose, and prior to us seeking our purpose, sometimes we go through things that helps us to identify our purpose. So basically, how did you get into obtaining that information and being a part of that?
So it all started with one day I was on social media and I saw that a girl named Dominique Chandler had died by suicide, and it just really did something to me. And whenever I was researching to see, what happened, I learned that other students at that university had died by suicide as well. So I decided that I
Wow.
was going to do a conference call. Yeah. So I decided I was going to do a conference call and kind of talk about it. And I interviewed someone who knew Dominique. And so from there, I started reaching out to people who were suicidal. And that was like in 2012. So then in 2013, 2014, I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to tell my story. So
Mm.
I made this long video and told my story. And the video is called My Suicide. And it got
Oh,
like 9,000 views in like 2 days, and everybody loved it. And so from there, I started really talking about what happened to me and the things that I endured and how I overcame it. And people started coming to me. So whenever somebody would deal with somebody who had suicidal ideation, they would come to me. And so from there, it just blossomed into what I do now.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So your story helped other people, and that's something that I do know is that when a lot of people get embarrassed about what they've experienced in their life, especially in the Black culture. We don't even like to inform other people what we go through because it's like the taboo. You're not supposed to let people know. And what I've learned in my studies is that the more we let people know, the more we find people similar or learn from our journey. So,
Mm-hmm.
you stated that you identified your truth. What was, if you don't mind sharing a little bit, what was your truth?
So, one of the things that I had to come to realize is that sometimes we look for ourselves in other people. And
Hmm.
we expect all of these things from other people because it's what we're giving. And so we
Right.
want that thing back. But sometimes what we have to realize is that we have to flip the script and give to ourselves the things that we're trying to give and receive from everybody else. And so, one of the things that I learned on my journey is that everything I thought I needed from everybody I already had. Now, that doesn't excuse people because if you're somebody's friend, you should care about them, you should love them. If you are somebody's leader, You should validate them. You should let them know that they matter and that they're important. But in the unlikely event that that does not happen, we have to know that we have everything we need within us to make it through this world and to be successful. And so I had to realize that everybody's not me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I have the capacity and the capability to love myself in a way that will demand that same love in my relationships.
That's awesome. And your relationships consist of even romantic, family, friendships, all of those types of relationships, right?
Definitely, definitely. Because, you know, we are commanded, even if you look at scripture, you're supposed to love your neighbor as yourself, which means you have to love yourself, and loving yourself is the standard. And then you love your neighbor based on that standard. And so sometimes we get so caught up in loving everybody else and wanting everybody else to be okay and caring about everybody else that we forget that self love really is the best love, and self care really is the best care. And sometimes, if you can just step away from that and you can just focus on you and focus on loving you, focus on caring about you, and focus on working on the things you need to work on, it cuts out all of that negativity and all of the things that would make you not want to be here.
That's true. Now, how would you utilize your services with the pandemic that's going on now? Because I know a lot of people are going through a depression state of mind because of being quarantined, especially the young people, being that they are so used to being around their friends and doing things that they are being prevented to doing now, which causes a lot of depression. And I know I'm not sure on the numbers, but I do know that the call centers for suicidal prevention has increased during this time of the pandemic. So, what do you think, or what do you have to share with us on how we can handle that, or how we can even notice if somebody's going through something?
Well, I think one of the things that we are failing to do in the pandemic is understand that we're all grieving. We're
Right.
grieving the loss of what this year could have been. We're grieving the loss of what this world could have been. We're grieving the
Mhm.
loss of all of the people who have died and all the virus and the police brutality. We are in a state of grief, number one. Number two, we're also being collectively traumatized. And so I think it's important that we keep a check on people and that we
Mhm.
understand that checking on somebody means checking on them. It doesn't mean checking their Facebook to see if they posted. It doesn't mean checking their Twitter to see if they tweeted. It doesn't mean checking their IG to see if there's a picture up there. It means directly saying, hey, so and so, are you okay? Do you need help? Are you good? Do you have paper towels? Do you have toilet paper? Do you have water? Are you stressed? Are your kids okay? We have become so individualistic because of the culture that we live in. We live in a very colonized culture, and it has made us the complete opposite of what we were, because we were tribal people. We were people of community, people of community care. We were not capitalist people. We were not individualist people. And so we have to go back to our roots in terms of who we really are and how we really live in community with each other. And if you focus on living in community with people, you'll be able to see when something's going on with somebody. You'll be able to understand when somebody answers the phone and their voice is a little off or their energy isn't together. And so I think
Right.
we really need to focus on building relationships, and even in terms of caring for ourselves. When you build yourself up enough and you love yourself enough, you'll begin to be able to let that overflow flow into other people. And the more attentive you become to yourself and your own needs and your own emotions and your own, energy, the more you'll be able to do the same for other people.
That now I know that to be true, and I think last week we spoke on clout chasing and utilizing the social media, in which when you stated not to check their social media, that kind of triggered something from our conversation that I had last week, where comparison disorder, where people do look at
Mm-hmm.
social media and compare themselves and feel less than because they have not, basically don't, they see themselves, they compare themselves to what they see others have, and therefore that causes a form of depression, and that depression can lead to suicide. So when it comes down to something with social media, although that's checking on people, what about those that utilize social media?
So if you are on social media, you definitely want to be able to recognize when something is going on with people. And you also want to make sure that you know what to do, that you have the suicide prevention phone number in your phone, because people can be good. They can be great. They can be having an amazing day. And then one thing
Right.
can happen. It causes them to snap and then boom, what do you do? And in that moment, it's too late to be trying to figure out, well, let me see if I can call somebody. Let me see if I can Google. You need to, get ready and stay
Right.
ready. And so if you are on social media, you have a responsibility. I just taught a class. I want to say it was August the 15th. Yeah, August the 15th. I taught a class about suicide and social media. And one thing I talked about in the class is that we have the responsibility of taking care of other people. So if you're on social media and you have that platform, you need to use your platform to make sure you're checking on your community. Post a status and say, how's everybody doing? Post a status and say, how is everybody coping? Because we all have a shared responsibility to look out for one another.
And that honestly is true. I think a lot of people utilize social media, but they don't know how what they're doing could be causing or preventing somebody from doing something. And I was thinking that maybe they should have some form of class for social media, so that they can identify, when how to utilize it for the betterment and not to utilize it to bring other people down. Because sometimes I don't think people realize that they are um, causing other people harm with their social media. Some people just want to post their good and they're good all the time and not their bad. So it appears like they never experience bad. So with that being said, if they don't experience bad and others that are experiencing bad, they compare. So what do you think about that? A social media class basically to help identify or to help those who utilize social media to not use it in a way where it can be harmful to someone else.
I think that's a good idea because I feel like we have been desensitized because we're so digital. Um, Molly Music has a song called Digital, and it
Mm,
talks about how we lose our sense of community, our sense of touching each other, our sense of being with each other because everything is so digital. And now that we're in the pandemic, it's even worse. And because everybody is at home moving them thumbs and everybody is at home on them keyboards, we forget that there are people behind these profile pictures and there are people behind these statuses and stuff.
mhm.
And so I think it would definitely do us all some good to just really think about the intention of what we're doing on social media. Why are we sharing the things that we're sharing? Why are we saying the things that we're saying? And I think if we focus on our intention and we focus on whether or not we intend to do good or to do harm, it'll cut out a lot of that stuff. Because again, we have to share in the responsibility of keeping everybody safe. And it's your individual duty and responsibility to do your part to keep people safe and to make things better.
And that is honestly true. And I also would like to add to that when it's overwhelming, it's okay to take a break from social media. It really is, because that overwhelmness can also cause a form of depression. And with everything that's going on, like the other day, I kind of just scammed onto social media, and I saw like 3 or 4 people posting Chadwick Boseman, and I didn't understand what it was because I really didn't read it. I was just kind of scanning through it, and I turned on TV and I saw one of his movies. I was like, wow, this is a coincidence, not really knowing what was going on. So I asked my children, and like all of them in a group text kind of hit me back and was like, he died, and I was like, wow, that kind of hit hard. So the following day, everybody was, giving, their stories related to him and how his death was to individual. And that kind of had me thinking about people identifying the death of Black Panther, right? And with children, with the death of Black Panther, that's hard on them. And I kind of looked at it differently because I do know grief also contributes to suicide. Some people feel like they can't live without something or someone, and that triggers them to want to be with them in life or death. And when I was thinking of that situation, I was like, are kids capable of understanding that the character has not passed, but the person who played the character has passed? And I think we have an obligation to help children understand that, because I do know in your book you identified different age brackets for children. That's correct, right? Because there's a lot of kids, especially being on social media, are committing suicide. And not saying that his death will relate to it, but have an understanding of what death consists of. I think we need to kind of not tell kids that Black Panther passed. I think we need to identify the difference between the character and the person, the actor. So what are your thoughts on that as far as dealing with grief?
Um, I think grief is something that we don't deal with enough. It's something that we try to sweep under the rug. It's something that we try to make pretty. And the fact of the matter is, we need to be honest about what's going on.
That's
I think it's important to remember, even with someone like Chadwick, yes, he was the Black Panther, and we love him and we appreciate him. He made history with his role, with the way that Black people came together when the movie came out and all of that. But at the same time, Chadwick's life was so much bigger
right,
than that. We can't sum his life up into one movie role, because
right,
his life was so much greater. He did so much more. He helped children who were in the hospital dying of cancer. He spoke at graduations. He empowered us. He was so much more, right? And so I
right,
think it's important that when it comes to grief, we frame grief in a healthy way, and we're completely honest about what's going on. We lost
right,
somebody, and it's hurtful, and it's confusing, and it's painful, and it makes you angry, it makes you sad. And one minute you're happy, and the next minute you're not. And one minute you're watching his Black Jeopardy video, and you're crying and laughing, and the next minute you're screaming because you can't believe it. And all of that is okay. And I think where we
right.
miss the boat when it comes to grief is that we try to make it pretty, we try to make it fit into this little box. And that's what causes people
Mhm.
to struggle mentally, because they don't have the opportunity to feel all the feelings, because we're like, push through it, keep going. Chadwick would want you to keep going, keep going. Your grandma will want you to keep going. Well, no, sometimes you don't need to keep going. You need to stop, and you need to get in your bed, and you need to cry, and you need to scream, and you need to holler, and you need to punch your pillow, and you need to go outside and
Right,
run, and you need to do what you need to do. You need to go get therapy. And I think if
right.
we stop being so keep going no matter what about stuff, it'll cut a lot of this other stuff out.
Oh, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. Keep going is a good way of putting how we put everything under the rug, because we don't know what keep going consists of when it's told to us. All we know is that it negates what we are going through. and uh, as you stated, we need to actually go through it. And in your book, you identify different ways of going through and dealing with people who are, I guess, have suicidal thoughts. How different groups of people, you've identified PTSD, and you also identified the elderly. Now, you stated that you had helped a lot of people, over 1,000 people, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Have you seen a pattern in the people that you have helped thus far?
Most people who are suicidal, they don't want to kill themselves. They want to kill one thing in their life. So if you can
Mm,
identify what it is that they really want to kill, you can help them live. They may want to kill their pain. They may want to kill
mm,
the fact that they miss their mom. They may want to kill the fact that they're unemployed. It's rare that somebody's just like, I want to kill myself because I hate myself and I just want to die. 9 times out
right.
of 10, there's a specific thing in their life that they want to kill. And so that's the thing
Mm,
I go after. I'm like, what we killing? What we killing? And so once I determine what we're killing, we kill that. If we don't kill the
right. Not
person,
the
we
person,
kill
but
that.
whatever it is that they're going through. That's a
Mm-hmm.
very, very good way of doing it. You know, so as you see, we did have a question up here from one of our viewers who stated, how can someone who is hurt or in pain be identified? And are these signs to pay attention to? Are there signs?
People who are hurting will express their pain in many ways. Sometimes their pain will manifest as a sickness. Sometimes their pain will manifest as anger. Sometimes their pain will manifest as withdrawal and
Mm,
isolation. And if it's somebody you're in relationship with, you just ask them. Um, you've been acting a little. I've noticed that you are. How can I help you? Um,
mm,
Seems like you're in a little pain. What's going on? You need somebody to talk to. Sometimes what we have to remember is that that little question that we have,
mhm,
that's our sign. Like you sitting here looking at me right now, I'm
mhm.
good, right? But if I was, like dragging along or my face looked like I was upset, that little thing within you that was like, I wonder what's wrong with Nicole. That's the thing that you need to be like, hey Nicole, did great on the live, but listen, something going on. You need to talk
Right,
about something. Got some, and so I think if you have a question about somebody's mental state, you have that question for a reason. And you shouldn't
right,
bury that question because that question is telling you that something is going on and it's something that you need to look into.
right. And that's good. Now, sometimes when those questions are asked, people fear the response because they take it personally. When somebody say they just don't want to be bothered, they think that they don't want the relationship, or something is they've done wrong in the relationship. How do you help people identify to separate themselves from the answers to those questions?
Number one, anything somebody else does isn't about you, it's about them.
Hmm.
So if you say, Nicole, are you okay? And I snap on you, that ain't about you. That's about me. That's me projecting my hurt, my frustration, my being upset onto you. And so I think it's important that we realize whenever we're dealing with people, whether they have mental health challenges or not, their rejection of our assistance isn't a rejection of us. Their rejection of our care and concern isn't a rejection of us. It's the
Mm,
rejection of whatever we're offering them because of an issue they have. Whether it's they just don't want to be
right,
bothered, they're ashamed, they're prideful, whatever it is. But you have to set an intention before you talk to somebody that you're not going to allow how they come across to you to affect what you do because you're doing it from a place of, I want to help this person.
Right. Right. And if we do it from that way, it'd be easier to kind of deal with it. Now, if they are defensive in their feelings and we don't take it personal, what's the next step? Is there different steps, or is it basically based off of not only what we see, and the questions that we ask, that we're not getting a truthful answer? How else can we assist? Do we speak to someone else in regards to the behaviorisms of someone if they showing signs of different from their normalcy, or do we constantly like stay and watch them to see if the signs either go higher or go back to normal?
So you don't always want to push the issue when it comes to something like that, but you can leave the door open and say, "Hey, I feel like something's going on. You said it's not. I'm gonna give you this hotline number. And if you feel like you want to talk to somebody, I encourage you to call the number. If you change your mind and you want to talk to me, talk to me." You leave the door open. You leave them with some type of resource because they may, for example, I'm very vocal about my mental health, but there are some people who have been very negative to me, very condescending to me, very
Mm,
judgmental to me. And so if they ask me if I'm okay, I could be about to jump off a bridge and I'm gonna be like, "I'm fine," because
right.
they're no longer allowed in that space. You get what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
some people, once they've been treated like that by one person, they treat everybody like that. "I'm good. Don't ask me nothing. I'm fine." You know what I mean? And so if that's the
Right.
case and that's how the person is, you just have to leave that door open and say, "Okay, well, I'm here if you need me." And if you're in a relationship with that person and you know somebody in their family or their friend circle that is a safe person who's not going to make them feel worse, then yeah, by all means, reach out to them as well.
Okay. Now, when you say a person, I watched Grey's Anatomy, and on Grey's Anatomy, they call that person my person.
Hmm.
How do you help people identify who they person can be if they don't have one already?
So, in my book, The Ultimate Suicide Prevention Guide, I have a place in there about safe people, right?
Mhm.
And um, what I say is not everyone is a go-to person. You have to make a
Right.
safe list. You go through your phone, you put a green check by the people who are safe, you put a red X by the people who are not safe. So how you know that someone is safe is if it's someone who allows you to state your feelings without invalidating the way you feel, someone who
Mm-hmm.
isn't quick to tell you how you should feel, someone who doesn't offer unsolicited advice, someone who realizes that sometimes you just need to talk and you don't need a lecture afterwards, and someone who's going to point you to resources and sources of inspiration and guidance. So that's the person, or those are the people that you need to call in the midst of a crisis. And you have to get yourself ready because we're in the middle of a pandemic and there's a whole bunch more stuff that's about to happen. You need to know who these safe people are today. You don't need to wait till you're about to have a breakdown to try to be trial and erroring who these people are because it's not going to end well. So
Right.
while you're good, you need to be figuring out who are my people or who is my person.
That's awesome. Now, I know in one part of your book, in regards to the person, identifying the person, there's also a part of the question not to ask someone,
Mm-hmm.
right? So or not to say to someone, I think it's not to say to someone, you're fine. But
Right.
not right, not to say, when someone do choose you to be their person,
Mm-hmm.
that person needs to know how to handle when a situation do occur. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why they were chosen was, understanding the connection that they had with the person that chose them. But as the chosen one, sometimes you don't know how to be the chosen one. Sometimes people pick them saying, "Listen, that's my sister. I can trust my sister, or I can trust my brother, but it's only the connection of family. It's not really identifying the connection of being able to speak, openly and honest about your feelings. So to prepare yourself to be that person, there are some things that you have identified what not to say versus what to say, right? So can
Yeah.
give us some of those?
So in my book, I go through. The first thing I do is I tell you what to say. Then I tell you what not to say. So I'm gonna read about 5 of them.
Okay.
Never tell a person that they're being selfish. Never say I know what you're feeling, because you don't. You could have went
Right.
through the same exact tragedy as somebody, but you don't know what they're feeling because you're not them. You know what you feel. So don't say I know what you're feeling. Definitely don't tell someone they just want attention. That is a big no. Don't say, well, I've been through the same thing and I'm not depressed or I'm not suicidal. Because people who are depressed because of a traumatic event or because something happened in their brain. Like they didn't wake up
Mm-hmm.
and say, oh, I'm going to be depressed about this. So you
Right.
saying that you're not depressed is irrelevant and it's
To
offensive.
their issues.
Mm-hmm. And the last thing, well, there's 2 other things. Saying, well, people have it much worse than you. Okay, well, I'm still hungry. I still don't have anywhere to live.
Right.
And then the other one, I'm glad that I don't let stuff get to me. Um, that's like looking at somebody who's in a wheelchair and saying, I'm glad I can get my legs to work every morning.
Right.
People with depression are just sitting around like, ooh, stuff, get to me, get to me. I want everything to get to
Right.
me right now. That's not how that works. And so you saying that is very offensive and it's actually a very ableist statement because you're condemning someone for not being able to do something that you're able to do.
Okay. And a lot of those things that you stated, I've seen and heard parents say that to their children,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we need to validate people's feelings when they are going through something, regardless if you feel like you've gone through it yourself or that you overcame it. Their feelings and what they're going through still needs to be validated because we all walk a different journey, and we always see the view differently. So basically, guys, just validate people's feelings and what they're going through, especially in this time where a pandemic, it can possibly be them just getting tired of putting on, not wearing their clothes, just wearing sweatpants. And somebody saying, I'm so tired of wearing sweatpants. And you're like, oh, well, just put on some leggings or something like that. That may not be what they are really tired of. So we might need to kind of
Mm-hmm.
go into conversation a little bit more, so validate what they're going through and stop always trying to offer a resolution. Sometimes people just need to speak, right? So now you gave us some things of what not to say. Give us some things of what we can say that can help those that we see going through things.
So the most important thing you can ever say to someone is that you're there for them. That's the most important thing. People need to know that you're there. Um, Another thing is reassuring the person that it's okay to not be okay
Mm-hmm.
because it is. It's okay.
Right.
I'm here to help. I'm listening. I don't know what to say, but I'm listening. If you don't know what to say, don't say anything. Just listen. We
Right.
be so ready and so eager to say something. We be so ready to come back with something. And sometimes we just need to be like, look, I ain't never been through that. I don't know what I don't know what to say about it. But I'ma
Right.
listen. Go ahead. And you sit there and you listen to
Exactly.
the person, and sometimes that's all they need to be all right. They just wanted to get it off their chest. And then another thing that you can always tell people is that you will call the lifeline with them. A lot of people are scared to call the lifeline. And let me tell you, do not be scared because the people are nice. The people are friendly. The people They're not gonna have you locked up and put in a padded wagon in a straitjacket. They're just real nice people. They just want you to be okay. So, it's
Right.
good to just be like, hey, I'll talk to people with you. Hey, I'll text the chat line with you. Hey, I'm gonna sit here and we're gonna work it out together. Um, it's not good to lecture people. It's not good
Mm,
to tell people, well, so many people will miss you if you go. Nobody care about that. Because in my mind, all these people who gonna miss me if I go,
mm-hmm.
I ain't heard from these people. I ain't seen
Right.
these people. These people ain't helped me try to fix my problem. So you want me to
Right.
stay here and be tormented every day for them?
Right.
No. And so we don't want to be guilt tripping people into staying alive. You know, we want to give them positive things to look forward to so that they'll keep themselves safe.
That's awesome. Now I know that you do motivational speaking and you basically identify choosing life. Um, what do you think is the most important thing that people really truly need to hear to motivate them to change their way of thought from suicide to basically choosing life?
That they may never be completely free from what they're going through,
Hmm.
but they will always have the power to overcome it. I have suicidal thoughts 5 out of 7 days. I had suicidal thoughts yesterday for about
Mm,
an hour, but I know how to overcome it. And if somebody would have told me, oh, well, eventually it'll just go away. And if you do A, B, and C, it'll just go away. And then years went by and it didn't go away, that would
mm,
make me feel worse because I would feel like the failure was in me. What did I
right.
do or what did I not do for this not to go away? But if you tell me, I can't promise you that it'll go away, but I can promise you that I'm going to give you the tools that you need to be able to overcome it every time it shows up in your life. I can get with that every day because that's
Mm,
what I do. So when it pops up in my head, I know how to be like, nope, not going to do it. Not going to do it. About to go outside. About to go for a walk. Not going to do it. You know what I
right.
mean? And I think, you know, that's the message. The
Right.
message isn't let's fix you. The message
Right.
is let's empower you and let's equip you so that no matter what you're dealing with, you're going to know what to do when it shows up.
And that's a beautiful way of doing it by stating empowering and not fixing, because I don't think any of us need to be fixed. I think we are who we are because that's who we are,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to have a different journey, and your journey helps you get to your purpose. And a lot of people don't realize that if you I always kind of put an analogy into everything. So if we're all driving on a highway and you turn down a bumpy road, one-way road, does not mean that you can't, that there is no more road for you to drive. It could be a dead end, bumpy road, but that does not mean that you can't get back onto that highway to get closer to your journey. And that does not mean that those cars that pass you is going to get to your journey first. It's not a race because they going to turn off somewhere else. Your car is destined for your journey. What gas you have in that car is going to help you get to your journey. So that empowerment is your gas in your car, and it's okay. You're okay, and you just want to empower yourself to push yourself to get closer to that your purpose and your journey. So I think the way that you identified that is a beautiful, beautiful way. Um, so now let's go ahead and talk about I Speak Life. How to do a 30-day journal. Um, that to me, I do journals. I love reading self-help books. Is that book for those who want to help others, or is that book for those who want to empower themselves?
I wrote it for people who want to empower themselves. But if you
Okay.
really want to get into the head of a person who's dealing with suicidal ideation, you can read it. So in my book,
Mhm.
I take you through different things that happen in my life, and I give you strategies to deal with those things. I get really personal about how I felt, what was going on in my brain, how I made it. I give you affirmations to say, I give you journal prompts to write about. And it helps people because every day you have something to go to. So you
Right.
wake up and you're like, oh, I hate my life. And you grab the book and you read it, and it's like, ooh, okay. And you get through that day. And so I wrote it to be like a companion, like a
Mm.
representation of me being with you and saying, okay, let's get up, let's go. And so it works really well for people who are dealing with suicidal ideation.
That's good. Now, do any point of your, I believe, I'm sure, of your books where you feel if they can't overcome it at a certain point that they should seek counseling?
I think you should seek counseling anyway. I think if you're black in America, you
Mm-hmm.
should seek counseling. I think if you're white in America,
And
you should seek counseling. We
I
have
agree.
the we have the DNA of the colonizer.
Mm-hmm.
We also have the DNA of the slave.
Mm.
So we got a lot going on. We have
Right.
trauma that runs through our veins. We have the
Mm-hmm.
trauma of our experiences in America right now, today. I've been traumatized in 2020. If I don't ever experience any trauma ever again, this year,
Mm-hmm.
this is gonna take a whole lot of therapy just to get over hundreds of. I mean, I remember when 9/11 happened and like less than 2,000 people died, and we were all like heartbroken and forever.
Mm-hmm.
And we was just like,
Right.
oh my God, what in the world? We was just going. Thousands of people die every day
Right.
from the thing. And it's just like, oh, we've gotten desensitized to it because so much. That's not good. It's
Right.
not good that we feel like it's okay that thousands of people die per day from something. And so what it shows is that we have numbed
Mm-hmm.
ourselves as a coping mechanism to the trauma. But
Right.
then when the trauma's over, how do we unnumb ourselves? So then if something else starts happening, are we gonna notice? Or are we gonna be so
That's
numb
true.
that it's like, oh, that's just somebody else that got murdered. That's just somebody, you know what I'm saying? We all need
Right.
therapy. But to
Right.
specifically answer your question, yes, if you get through the book
Mm-hmm.
and you still ain't all right, there's resources that I list in the book for you to talk to. And the main one is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That's where I send everybody. Even if you're not
Well,
suicidal and you're just sad.
awesome. And all that information, once this segment is over, guys, all the information that she's going to recommend will be posted on the page. Just want to put that out there. I know that there's a lot of programs that you are a part of, like your nonprofit. And I think that right there is also a beautiful thing. Is that only in your area? Or is that something that can be everybody can kind of participate in? And give us some more information in regards to your nonprofit program.
So my nonprofit is called Not on My Watch. It's suicide prevention and anti-bullying. And what I do with my nonprofit is I work with schools, I work with child care centers, I work with after school programs to make
Okay.
sure that people are equipped, that people are made aware of what's going on as it relates to suicide prevention and bullying. We do things like giveaways. Every year around Christmas time, we do a giveaway to a child who lost a parent in the fourth quarter of the year. we do lots of stuff, and so that's kind of just where all my good feel good stuff is done.
Awesome. And is that just locally?
It's everywhere.
It is everywhere?
Mhm.
Okay. So guys, whoever want to participate in the nonprofit, that information will be given as well, you know. And I think one of the biggest things that I had loved about the information that I've obtained about you was your anti-bullying, which of course I don't think it's going to be a lot of that now because of the pandemic, because most of the kids are now actually home doing their schooling and so forth. But prior to that, we had a large amount of young people killing themselves due to bullying. And one thing, I'm old school. So me, old school bullying was in the playground, pushing back and forth and teasing in that manner. When I learned of cyberbullying, I was just like, how could people get cyberbullied when all you have to do is shut off the computer? And that was me being naive about it until I saw and did more research, because cyberbullying is a real thing. In fact, I like to reference back to our previous last week where we were speaking on clout chasing, in which that was basically calling people out and basically harassing people online just to get people to follow you, which is some kind of crazy nonsense. But a lot of people do it, especially with the people that are in entertainment. But to and they themselves barely can handle it. So now, me looking back at it, I was like, cyberbullying, that's pretty much what that is, but with younger children. So,
Mhm.
give us more information about that, because there are still children online in which young children watching these things and speaking to their friends. Now, this is the only way that they are communicating with their friends. So,
So
what do you have to say about
cyberbullying.
that?
Oh, sorry. So
No.
cyberbullying is definitely a real thing, and
Mhm.
you can always go to like stopbullying.gov. It's a government website, and it'll give you all kinds of information about bullying and cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is not something you should ignore. If it happens to you, you should report it on the social media network that it happens on. A lot of kids have these burner IG accounts, and I forgot what they're called, but they're not called that. They're called something else, but I forgot. But they have like these undercover social media accounts
Accounts.
that they use to do different stuff. And so, if you're a parent, you need to know what your kid is doing. You need to know what IG your kid is logged into. You need to go to their IG and click on the little thing and see how many accounts pop up. You need to be aware, and you also need to not be in denial about your precious little baby, because your
Hmm.
precious little baby may be out here acting the fool.
Hmm.
And if somebody comes to you and tells you that your precious baby is doing something, don't be so quick to say, well, my child would never do that, because you need to go back and think about all the stuff you did when you were little that your mama would have thought you would have never did.
Right.
Because what happens,
Hmm.
parents defend their children when their children are in the wrong. And
Hmm.
because you don't think your child would do it, you out here
Hmm.
going off, and the whole time your child did it.
Right.
So don't be naive. Keep up with your kid, with what your kids are doing. And if your child comes to you and tells you that they're being cyberbullied, don't tell them to toughen up. Don't tell them it's just social media. Don't worry about it. Look into it and see what's going on.
That's some good pointers, guys, especially those who are parents to younger people. Now, what age do you think is appropriate for you to basically let your children be on social media to that point where people can get to them in that manner? Is there an age bracket that you think? I mean, it's not having to be written in stone, because we all have rules and regulations in our household. But as far as a recommendation of an age bracket that they pretty much are knowledgeable enough to know how to handle situations of that manner.
I think it depends on your kid, but I also think that if the age for a social network is a certain age, you shouldn't have your kid up there if your kid isn't that age. So if Facebook and IG say you have to be 13, Your 11-year-old shouldn't be on Facebook and IG because they're not 13. But I feel like, as far as an age, it really just depends on how well you have equipped your child and how supportive you are and how involved you are in your child's online life. Because your child should not have a private online life until they are an adult.
Mhm. I think that is sufficient. That is definitely sufficient enough information, So, but I thank you for that information. Now, I noticed that you stated that you rent series of books. You want to speak on those books as well? Because I do know, as we speaking on children, you did and you have written children books. Is that correct?
I have 13 children's books. The series is called Good Morning Young Butterfly. And I talk about different topics such as peer pressure, character, stress relief, conflict resolution, all types of stuff. And so in those books, I give kids vocabulary words, I give them journaling exercises, I give them affirmations to say, and I give them activities to do that all are related to the particular theme of the book.
Awesome. And then those books are age appropriate, so they're all in different age brackets. Or are they all like one series of all ages?
So the youngest person I know that has gone through my books is like 8, and the oldest person is like 17. Sometimes adults buy my books though. So I mean, I
Yeah.
guess whoever.
Well, that's awesome, guys. So therefore, her now that book, those books are called um, "Good Morning, Young Butterfly," or is that the
Good
different
morning, young butterfly. Yep,
one? Okay. And are those books all on Amazon?
they are.
They are awesome, awesome. Okay. Now, I know with you doing speaking engagements and so forth, I know that the pandemic probably is holding you back from doing a lot of things. So, are you doing um, online speaking engagements? I mean, this was perfect. I appreciate this. And anybody have any questions for her, she's willing to, answer them. But are you doing any form of online teaching? Because I know you stated that you did a class recently. But I also know that you was trying to pull together another form of classes from communicating with you prior. So give our audience more information regarding your upcoming motivational things or your speaking engagements so that they can, find you later, because on the page, you definitely are part of the group, but I would like for them to be able to contact you if they choose to, because a lot of people have a lot of questions. Where would they be able to see you speak?
So on my page, on my personal Facebook page, I'm gonna be going live every day for Suicide Prevention Month in September. So I'm going live
Mhm.
September 1st through 30th every day. I don't know what time because I'll be up in the morning sometimes. But at some point in the day, I'm gonna go live. I'm gonna go live on my IG as well. Um,
Okay.
Nicole Watson is my IG. So yeah, going live every day.
So yeah, I hear that she's going to be online every day. And for the person who's asking where you can purchase the books, all her books are on Amazon. I will put that information, those links as well on the page. And I think that we kind of, oh, there was something else. How did you come about getting your mental health first aid for adults and children? Because I noticed that I wanted to kind of find that information out for myself. I wanted to kind of get that, even though I'm in college for it. But I think the certification gives you the help for those in suicide thoughts and help those, you know, right away.
Right. So first of all, you can buy my books on Amazon. You can also buy my books on my website, NicoleWatson.com. It's a little bit better if you buy them on my website because you get a little bit more. But as far as mental health first aid, I just looked it up. I was like, what certifications do I need? What should I get? And so I saw mental
Okay.
health first aid, and there's so many. There's
I
adults,
know.
children, there's EMT people, there's like farmers, and like it's just so many. But at the time, the only ones that were available to me at the time was adults and kids. And so it's really fun. It's really amazing. It's an all day thing. It's like an 8 to 5, right? So you go, you learn, you do role plays and exercises and activities. You have a lunch break and all of that. And then at the end, you get a nice little certificate and stuff like that. I don't know how long it lasts. And like right now with the pandemic, I don't even know. But yeah, it's really amazing. I can't remember the website, but if you Google mental health first aid, it'll let you like search for a class. Because one thing I know is that because smaller gatherings are starting to be allowed, a lot of this stuff is ramping back up um, in September and October.
Okay. Okay. So y'all hear that. If y'all want any of that information, Google is your best friend at this point in time. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So I want to go ahead and end this, but with the ending, I would like for you to share some of your affirmations that you listen to or you say to yourself when you get into those mind frame, that mindset of suicide or your downtime. What do you say to yourself to help lift you up and help get you out of that? What are those affirmations that you would like to share with us today?
So one of my favorite affirmations that I say is I am always safe. I'm always safe. I'm loved. I am protected. I am great. I am strong. I am undefeatable. I am powerful. I am worthy. I am smart. I am beautiful. I am going to make it. Like I just go in. And
Right.
whatever comes to mind, I'm like, okay, that's what I am.
That's
Come on, let's go. And
I
so
know
I
that's
always start with I'm safe, I'm loved, I am protected. I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm protected. I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm protected. And that kind of builds this thing around me and I'm like, okay. And then from there, whatever comes to mind, that's what we're gonna go with.
yeah. So I'm safe, I'm loved, and I'm protected. That's a beautiful one. I tell you, I'm one of those being Mary Jane. I have post-it notes all in my room, and my post-it notes have my affirmation. And my affirmation every time when I get up, I look at my poster board, and whatever one my eyes go to, that's the one that I actually absorb the most. And
Yeah.
I have some here. Mine goes, "I love you, Catherine. I love you, Casey. I love you in my name." So therefore, I know it's like a dear love, dear John letter to myself.
Yeah.
Another one is I am of service. I am of service to you. I am of service
Mm-hmm.
to me. I am service of all. And you are enough. That is one that I basically I focus on that a lot because with me sitting at home, I mean, like we all going through this pandemic, and sometimes we question our value. And that one sticks with me a lot, that you are enough.
Yeah.
So we shared those with you guys today. And I want to say I thank you, Nicole. This was such
Thank
a
you.
great sit down. And I hope to have you back again when you write your 30th book, your 20th book, your 15th book, all these books, because you are a wealth of knowledge and you are enough. You
Thank
are
you.
beautiful. You have such a beautiful soul. And I thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, guys, that's another one for the Naked Truth. And you guys, y'all have yourself a good one. We will see y'all again next week. Have a good one. Bye.